Hello and welcome to Trending Daily. I'm Makhdoom Shahabuddin. For years, Narendra Modi has presented himself as the face of clean governance, transparency, and development. But when we move beyond political speeches and look at the government records, court judgments, and financial disclosures, a different and much more complicated picture begins to emerge. This is not simply a story about 910 crore rupees spent on newspaper advertisements. It is a story about public money. It is a story about political power. It is a story about corporate influence. And above all, it is a story about transparency. Between 2020 to 21 and 2024 to 25, the Modi government spends rupees 910.4 crore on print advertisements. That means an average of roughly rupees 182 crores every year. Among the major newspapers listed in the government data, the Times of India receives rupees 78.22 crore. Dainik Jagran receives rupees 59.14 crore. Hindustan Times receives rupees 47.80 crores. Amar Ujala receives rupees 24.92 crore. Hindustan receives rupees 21.56 crore. Dainik Bhaskar receives rupees 20.53 crores. And the Indian Express receives rupees 6.51 crore. Now, government advertising itself is not corruption. Governments elsewhere and everywhere advertise public programs, they inform citizens about welfare schemes, they announce public services, they communicate health campaigns, they issue recruitment notices, they provide information during emergencies. So the existence of government advertising cannot automatically be described as corruption. But the real question is much bigger. Who gets the money? Why do they get it? What criteria determines the distribution? And can public advertising money influence the media environment? These are questions that deserve scrutiny because when a government spends hundreds of crores on media, transparency is not optional. It is essential. And this is where the Modi government faces an even more serious controversy. Electoral bonds. In 2017, the Modi government introduced a new system of political funding called electoral bonds. The stated argument was that the system would make political funding cleaner and reduce the use of cash. But there was a major problem. The identity of the donors was kept hidden from the public. Companies and individuals could purchase these bonds and donate them to political parties without ordinary citizens knowing who was financing whom. And then came the Supreme Court. In February 2024, India's Supreme Court struck down the electoral bond scheme as unconstitutional. The court held that voters have a right to information about political funding. The judgment transformed the debate because the question was no longer simply political. The country's highest court had ruled against the system itself. And once the data was disclosed, another fact became impossible to ignore. The BJP was by far the biggest beneficiary of electoral bonds. Data released after the Supreme Court intervention showed that the BJP received the largest share of money donated through the system. According to reported data, BJP received more than rupees 6,000 crores through electoral bonds between 2018 and 2024. The numbers were enormous, but the money itself was only one part of the controversy. The bigger question was this: why was a political funding system designed in a way that ordinary voters could not see who was financing political parties? And if voters cannot know who is giving money to political parties, how can they assess whether political decisions may be influenced by financial interests? That is the central transparency question. The Supreme Court's decision made the issue even more serious. The court did not merely criticize the political debate surrounding electoral bonds. It struck the scheme down. The court found the anonymity provisions incompatible with citizens' right to information. So now consider the contradiction. The government speaks about transparency, but the system it introduced allowed political donations to remain hidden from the public. And the largest beneficiary was the BJP. That does not automatically prove a criminal exchange of money for government favors, but it creates a legitimate democratic question. Who benefits from political secrecy and who loses when voters cannot see the money trail? There is another issue. The electoral bond data revealed donations from companies that had faced scrutiny or action by government agencies. This created intense political controversy over whether financial pressure and political donations could be connected.